Chapter 10. Broken leg. His arm was resting over Mia's side when he woke, and that made him content to stay lying exactly where he was and keep feeling her chest moving as she breathed so close to him. She needed her sleep even more than him. She was the one that actually piloted the ship while all he had to do was call for it to blast off, and then watch the worlds race past. "You should be awake now. It's late," Kyra said loudly from the way into the control room. "You're needed to show what you bought," Kira added. "You know what we bought," Cal said, trying to not sound annoyed. "It's too early," the woman in his arms muttered, and she snuggled her back even harder into him. "It's the food things," Kyra said. "We can't understand the writing, and Lou is ready to cook," Kira continued. "Hurry back," Mia muttered, and he wanted to leave even less. His mood hadn't improved when he did get into the shop, the floor strewn with the contents of the 2 pods, cartons hurriedly pulled out and dumped so some more could be ripped out. "What a mess," he said loudly. "Everything placed carefully along the side wall before anything else is done. Now. But the clothes. Everything and now. Is that clear enough?" He heard no more until the floor was a whole lot tidier. "Now these empty pods out of the way, and we'll have some space to work." His outburst had its result, but it had attracted many to see what was happening, including the pair who were supposedly asking for the ingredients. "Now amongst this mess we should have 7 different types of teas and the implements for using them. That can all be placed on one of the empty shelf units now, and we'll get another empty shelf unit, or maybe 2, ready for the food things." The twins selected the tea cartons and others silently arranged the shelves, and soon the task was done. Now the other food items. All stacked on the empty shelves so it's easy for everyone to see what we have. Cal could clearly see the problem now. The ingredients were all colorfully labeled in a foreign language. Not a word he could understand. Even the images on the labels were little help, mainly seeming to be of scenes of the land where they were produced, rather than the item itself. Even looking at the bottles, the contents seemed to be all the same color black. "Does anyone know this writing?" he asked, looking toward Lou and Sue, but they shook their heads. "It looks like we'll have to get one of every item out and then open it and try it. I know we didn't order any poisons, so it should be safe." Now there was some chatter as people looked, and then held the various items as they tried to decode the labels. There were still cartons of pots and utensils, but they didn't seem so important. Once the opening began, the smelling and tasting was close behind, but that turned into a lot of screwed up faces. These were supposed to be concentrated sauces, not made for eating as they were, but it did satisfy the curiosity. Sue came to say that all the items were of very good quality, and some of the powders were spices, some quite expensive, used to improve the taste of top cooking. Her mother had said they only used them when cooking for the big bosses. "Here we use them for everyone," Cal said. "When things settle, you check what we have and what else you need." He was also able to talk to Agatha to confirm she had got the invoices for the goods. She hadn't, so Cal asked her to annoy the twins until they produced them. They need to take some responsibility when they mess up. Then it was Jeff's wife, who had taken over running the shop. "Are you handling the clothes too?" She was, so he told her a little about the stock they had bought and that he would make up the clothes racks for her. And then it was Mia, the one Cal hoped would still be back in the ship. "I heard you had trouble. Girls making a mess. But you'll forgive them." "Not so sure. I was really enjoying cuddling you." "So was I." "Lou said she knows what everything is now," Kira said from behind Cal's back. "She said some of the spices are really good," Kyra added. "Did she say about how junior business partners need to take a lot of care how they unpack and check stock compared to the invoice? And did she say how those partners need to set a good example to the staff on how to keep things tidy and well sorted?" "Agatha did a bit," Kira said. "And you said even more," Kyra said. "Well, that's good. Now how about we make up some of those clothes racks and get that area tidy next? Us engineers will be best at making those racks," Kira said. And we'll help at making the clothes tidy on the new racks, Kyra added. Well, that's very good. Now Mia and me are going back to the ship and finish our rest, and we don't expect to be interrupted for at least an hour, maybe longer. We'll make that happen, Kira said. We'll make sure, Kyra added, the pair looking at each other with a huge grin. Sue and Lou used the large kitchen in the liner to practice cooking using the fresh produce and the new ingredients. No shortage of people to test their creations, and over a few days, they produced a list of additional things that were needed. The biggest surprise from their last trip was yet to come when Orbis maneuvered Cal away from others. A quiet word in your ear, he said. A delicate thing to ask, even though I don't really need to ask. Ask. You know I listen to your advice. I'm not as young as I once was. None of us are. Been years alone. I approve whoever, but you don't need my approval really. Maybe I might. I was thinking of that Lou. She's a fine-looking woman. Cal turned to face Orbis, a smile forming. You living up to your name, you old devil. She happy too. Haven't done nothing yet. Didn't want to cause trouble. No trouble from me, and if you need help, I've got 2 girls that'll make sure. If I haven't heard anything by the morning, I'll set them at work. Well, I better go then. Been a long time. Maybe I've lost my touch. Never, Cal grinned. An old rogue never loses his touch. When he saw Mia next, he told her about Orbis's secret crush, knowing it wouldn't take long. By dinner time, Orbis was keeping close to Lou and her eyes kept straying to him. It seemed all was well. 2 days of no jobs. Plenty of time for the women to play with the shop and annoy those trying to get the kitchen in the liner working to prepare the new meals they planned to begin selling. Cal was more worried about their finance. Empty pockets and zero on the terminal and all the credits coming in already allocated to bills and replacement stock. Conversations to Mr. Slee and his daughter Agatha confirmed the financial position, then attempts to talk to Orbis about solutions came to little, the man too much involved with his new love close. Lou and me have decided to move in together, he said happily. This new life is turning out great. At least Mia listened to his ideas, and she didn't completely say they were wrong, and there was no point in saying anything to the twins. He knew they would approve instantly. Nothing else but to call a meeting of all their people. Cal called a meeting in the liner dining room for early evening, the time when most everyone was in one place. A meeting to discuss our immediate plans, he said loudly, getting the room silent. First off, I want to thank everyone for their superb work so far. Everything is going even better than I imagined, and it's all thanks to all you people. He looked over the sea of faces all waiting for his next pronouncement. Those in charge of different areas are all doing excellent jobs. Orbis managing the whole grounds. Jeff running the transportation, and his wife supervising the shop. Ginny with the freighter. Mr. Slee and Agatha with the finance and bookings, and now Lou with the cooking, and all those who help where they can. Over the next month we will receive 3 more vans and need maybe 5 or 6 extra families to join our crew here. More work to do and more people to help. There's only one group that have time on their hands, and that's me and my family. We're busy with the monsters, Kira called out. Cal continued when the laughter stopped. We have little to do because there are no spare credits to buy the new cooking and shop things we need. Not until all 6 vans are set up will there be any spare credits for that, and I can't see my crew sitting still for 4 more weeks. Neither can we, Kyra said. Since all you here can run this place perfectly by yourselves. My crew and me plan on trying to find some high-paying freight to move, and try to collect the credits to improve the shop and here. Us junior business partners think that's a great idea, Kira said excitedly. We're ready for an exciting pirate-type job now, Kyra added. Maybe a less exciting job, Mia said. Looking jobs I doing now, Mr. Slee said, getting up and heading toward the control room, half the room trying to follow. Cal joined behind, but once they were in the control room, he was allowed to get to the front to be alongside Mr. Slee. The man had his hands near the main keyboard, 2 fingers out ready to poke the keys, and there were lines of jobs quickly scrolling down the screen. Line after line, but the only thing Cal was trying to notice was the asking price. Sorting by price I doing. The screen scrolled again, but now of the many jobs only a few remained, sorted by asking price, down to 500 credits. Only the top 2 were more than 1,000. 50 pods moved for 5,000 and 1 pod for 8,000. The 8,001, Cal said, and some more keystrokes brought up all the details. It's from the far outer rim, Mia said, shaking her head. And doesn't say what the contents are. A great pirate job, Kira said. Book it, Cal said. Crew ready for some excitement. Waiting still, Mr. Slee said. I need people to prepare a list of things we need to buy when we have the cash, and as soon as we have the details we'll take off. Yes, Captain, Kira said smartly. Your crew are ready for action, Kira added. Job accepted, Mr. Slee said. Details coming to your terminal now. Cal had many heads trying to see over his right hand, but really there was little to see, only pickup coordinates and contact number. He decided to call right now. Cal, captain of the Sea Stallion, calling about the freight pickup. Everyone silent while he tried to hear the reply. A lot of noise in the background, like heavy machinery working, and a man's voice saying the freight was ready to go. They're within 12 hours, Cal said. We'll call when in orbit. Call ended, everyone trying to talk at once. People offering ideas of what to buy with the proceeds and others offering suggestions of what the freight could be. Only Mr. Slee had anything sensible to say. Care you be taking. Losing you not we wanting. It took more than an hour to be ready to leave, the 3 women still barraged with suggestions. Then it was deciding what produce would be best for snacks to pack for the trip. In all that chaos, Cal had no help in loading 2 empty freight pods for any possible return freight. All crew to stations, he called out. Destination transferred. Hatch closed and sealed. Blast off when ready. The last part will be a slow trip, Mia said. Maybe 6 hours. Too many possible obstacles. Shields to maximum, Kira called. Us pirates will blast them. Ship power maximum 2, Kira said. Ready for blast off, Captain, Mia said. Blast off, my hero crew, Cal said, and the 3 cheered. No doubt about it, their real home was in space in this ship. The slow part began about 2 hours in, the holomap showing patch after patch of space boulders. Too big to keep blasting through, the best course was to slow and simply steer around them. Any they missed, the shields would take care of, hopefully. The slow speed was wearing. No way to avoid the incessant hum of the coils, and everyone needed to maintain constant watch for trouble while watching the surrounding space move past at what felt like snail's pace. It was no fun. I don't mind if we want to take a break and rest, Cal said when he'd had enough. Is that an order? Mia said, her voice strained. Yes. Whenever you feel. The ship was out of ether space in seconds and slowing to hang dead in space. Only a couple more minutes and the ship was set to auto and the whole crew were lying on the bed, Mia in the middle for once, her back cuddled into his front. Sometimes she needs special cuddling, Kira said softly. We're looking forward to our new sister, Kira whispered. What sister? Cal said, feeling Mia squirm even closer into him while the twins tried to stop giggling. He felt like he hadn't slept, but the screen said they'd been still for 5 hours. At least the rest of the trip seemed easier when they set off again, and the others seemed fresh. Entering orbit soon, Kira called out. Extended scanners activated. Cal looked over at the scanner screen and definitely didn't like what he saw. Why was it that wherever they went there was a cloaked Imperial warship? But this time it was even worse. 2 ships quite close by with red flags. That meant they were targeted for boarding or seizure. Details on those red-flagged ships, he called, watching the screen change. Illegal weapons running. Both ships. Now he had a good idea what was in the pod he was here to pick up. All assistant pirate crew to keep a close watch on the screens for threats while I call for our pickup point. You're going on with the job? Mia asked. A pirate never passes treasure, Kyra said. Mia shook her head. A man answered Cal's comm instantly, efficiently sending landing coordinates that Cal transferred to Mia's screens. In your own time. Fast in and out, Mia said. Very fast. We'll do the freight doors, Kira said. We should have blasters, Kyra added. Freight ships don't have blasters, Cal said. You do, Kyra shot back. The landing site is close to a town of sorts. Mia's statement had all eyes to the other main screen. Still daylight too. Everyone take care. Normally Mia took a slanting path, slowly lowering height as she followed an orbit down. Today she stopped above the site and dropped directly down. Fast at first, then slower and slower the closer to the ground they came. The one plus of this strange descent was they could keep watch on their destination all the time. Cal was particularly looking for vehicles racing to the site, or ships looking to follow them, but all seemed good. No other ships moving on the scanner, Kira reported. 2 minutes to landing, Mia called. I'll do the freight ramp, Cal said, call if anything changes. In the freight hold, he undid the secure box and added a small blaster to his trouser pocket. Then he got out 2 straps to secure the freight. When he felt the sea stallion settle onto the ground, he pushed the button to lower the freight ramp. The ramp was right to the ground and still there was no sight of anyone close. The landing ground was only a cleared area on the edge of town. On one side was the town itself. A higgledy-piggledy assortment of houses, most looking like they'd been fashioned from pieces of scrap, almost like the Grand Bazaar. Directly opposite was low vegetation. Not high enough to be called trees, but more than just grasses. In between, on both sides, was more cleared area, and the signs of an unmade road. No way was he leaving the ship. Nothing to do but wait. Vehicle from the east. One of the twins speaking on the hailing speaker. What way is east? Cal thought as he looked all around. Eventually it was in sight, a small passenger vehicle not big enough to hold a standard freight pod. Turning to check there were no twins looking in the doorway, Cal came to stand on the edge of the freight ramp watching the vehicle approach. Only one man visible, the battered old vehicle stopping right up to the ramp and the man racing to get out. You ready to load? Can't see the pod. Freight in the back. I'll need help. The man was pointing to the rear passenger door, and cautiously Cal approached too. He needs to get to the medical center on 82220 quick. Bad accident. Cal looked into the opened door. An older man. Rough working clothes, and one leg in bandages, blood oozing through the once white cloth. He's the freight. Just get him there quick, that's all we ask. Crew, Cal called out. All help. By the speed the twins appeared, they must have been hiding just near the freight hold. Mia took longer. What if we treated him here, Cal said. How much did the medical center want? 200,000 to begin. 100 total, Cal said. Treatment to begin immediately. We might not have the whole in cash. We'll discuss later. Let's fix him before he loses even more blood. The work was taken from Cal's hands, women rushing to supervise the ill man into the auto medic. Can I get his wife and children to come and see him? One nod and the crew were alone with the patient. Easy repair, Mia said. But 2 treatments needed. We're here for 18 hours. The wife and 3 children arrived while the first treatment was in progress, all taking turns to peer close and wonder at the working machine. Looking at the state of their visitors' clothes, Cal felt guilty for even asking for payment, but they still owed $3 million for the machine. He was still pondering on the problem when Mia came to talk. You did the right thing in treating him, but how do we get paid? Half an hour more and the landing ground was swarming with people and machines, all wanting to know about Indigo, and most wanting to come and look for proof. At least the twins thought it a grand event, and were busy offering their version of two-headed snake rolls for all the children to sample. Cal came to decide their man, Indigo, was the local chief, but the real information that excited him even more was what this town was set up for: mining and processing fuel rods. Indigo's first treatment was over and he was placed in bed for 10 hours rest when Cal was approached by 3 men. "We've been trying to work out how we can get the credits to pay you," the man who had came to them first said. "Fuel rods," Cal said without a moment's hesitation. "We can trade them easy." He could see the relief on the 3 men. "A set of 6. For that, we'll check all your people here. Especially if they were L-84 type." "Deal." That started a round of handshaking that attracted the 3 women. "We've arranged payment, and part of that is we'll medic check everyone here, so you women are going to be very busy. Our men will bring you food while we get you the payment," one man said. It was going to be a very long day. While the women began checking the children first, Cal was taken for a drive to see the town. Exactly like he imagined a mining outpost might look like. Everything old and reused. Mine dust everywhere outside, but things clean inside. When he spotted an auto kitchen, he asked about costs and was staggered at what he found. Of course the freight increased all costs, but this was beyond what was right. He said nothing, but his mind was working full speed. A halt was called at dark, after a promise the checks would continue at dawn. There was no doubt most needed rest, but first there were reports. Nearly every patient needed some treatment, mostly small, but it was all taking time. "The payment we settled on is enough to pay for 6 more vans," Cal said. "And as well, there is a business supplying food here, when we have the credits to buy it." "And another ship and pilot," Mia said. "That's for the future," Cal said. "For now, I see sleep in our future. Us girls can sleep in our room if you want to cuddle specially," Kira said, both twins grinning. "I might be too tired for that," Mia said. "He isn't," Kira said quickly. "He is," Mia said firmly. He'd been told. It was a very full day of work for the women. Men, women and children, one after another ran through the auto medic. Again, it was many small matters to be looked at, and one big one that was started, and the women set back to rest. "Half a day more," Mia said when they stopped for the second night. She would have been right, but then they found another issue that took 2 long sessions to heal, so it was a third night resting and a few hours more work before they were free to go. Departure was a happy event, with the whole town out to cheer them off. Plenty of promises to return visits and it was time to leave. Same as the way in, the crew broke the trip into 2 to rest from the long time in noisy ether space. "So you traded for 6 more vans," Orbis said. "You been learning good lad. We still need credits though. Need to look for another paying job once the crew have rested." "They look rested now." They did too, the 3 women gossiping to the other women who all wanted to know about the last trip. Cal went inside the liner to the control room to talk to Mr. Slee, and he was keen to know all the events of their last trip. "4th van ready to picking up," he said once he'd heard enough. "Maybe we should look for another job to do on the way, or back," Cal said. "Credits we still need badly." "Me looking and knowing. I telling you while you picking van. Crew here needing van." He'd been told. When he got to the women, they had the same message: everyone was waiting for that next van. No rest. Even Mia was pressing him to leave right now. Cal worked out during the trip that even though he was supposed to be the boss, Mr. Slee had no intention of sending any job until this van had been delivered. As they settled into specialist produce handlers, Cal had tight hold of the case of L-84 power rods as they all walked toward the delivery entrance. Inside they waited in the showroom while the president was bought. Very little waiting and the man came bursting into the room, hand out to shake, and with compliments to the 3 women. "I see you have business in your hand," he said looking at Cal. "An additional 6 vans if you're interested. They must be working out well then." That gave an opening for the twins to burst into a story of all the features and details of their modifications to the display. Cal was left shaking his head while the man was entranced with the fine details. All Cal could do was wait. Eventually he was able to return to the deal. I have 6 L84 rods, and was thinking that would pay for the 6 vans plus one further item. A display for our shop. Something the women would like. We know, Kira said quickly. The juice bar, Kyra added, both girls nodding. Deal, the man said. 1 juice bar in your colors included with your next van once I've checked the goods. Cal handed over the case and waited while the man went out the room. I like that deal, Mia said. I think the twins chose well. That had the girls grinning while Cal had the feeling he could have asked for even more. When the man returned he was grinning too, thanking them for their order as he ushered them out and toward the delivery entrance. In the distance, another of their bright orange vans with the number 04 clear on the rear doors was parked alongside the Stallion. Back to work. The Stallion Book 2. The Base at Grand Bazaar. A Space Adventure. By Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2024 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Cover and text written and assembled by hand without use of artificial intelligence.